So Sheila and I have been living out of our car for about a year now, and I wanted to share a few things that I think should be requirements when you're living and camping with a dog the way that I do. So it's very windy outside today and very cold, so we're in the car, and this is what I look like because I live in my car, but let's check it out. So first thing is first aid kit, obviously. Sorry, there's dog hair floating around everywhere in my life. So I keep our first aid kit right here. I keep it hooked onto the headrest so I can get to it quickly and easily. Oops. And so this one is from Kurgo. I got this at the Overland Expo a couple years ago. It's made for dogs specifically, which is nice. I also got this cute little tag. Volkswagen was at the Overland Expo and they were making little dog tags. So it says the Overland Expo on there, and then it also has Sheila Monster. Anyway, it's cute. Alright, so this kit, like I said, is made for dogs. So it's got some gauze, it's got some paracord in here, I guess a different type of gauze, like a cheesecloth kind of, some medical tape, scissors, tweezers, alcohol pads, Q-tips. Also kind of a cool thing, it comes with a Mylar blanket. And there's all sorts of things in here as far as like an instant ice pack, bandages, all those kinds of things. Pretty much your basic first aid kit. Cool thing about this though is it also has a little first aid booklet in here. Obviously it's not going to replace a vet visit if necessary, but it does give you some instructions on how to do things for minor injuries, ailments, and to kind of hold you over until you get to the vet, which is important sometimes, especially if you're out in the middle of nowhere. So sticking with the first aid theme, that kit came with all that stuff, and it's a great place to start. But there's a couple other things that I always want to have. I have this wound and skin care. I really like Vetricin. I could not find it where I was when I needed to buy some, so I got this Microcin 8H. I've used it a few times and seems to work just as good as the Vetricin. And then I also have this liquid bandage. Something like this is important to have, especially if you're, like I said, out somewhere and you can't get into vet care. This is not going to like close up a major wound, but if you want to have something covered, and sometimes it's hard to get things to stick on a dog. They have fur, so if you just need a wound covered before you can get into civilization and clean it well and wrap it or whatever you need, this can be really helpful. So I carried this with us as well. Next thing, not really first aid related, but I do have a tick key that we take with us everywhere, and you can see mine is still attached to the package. Luckily, we have never had to use it. We don't generally go to a lot of places that have ticks, or an abundance of ticks, I should say. We do have them. We've been in Arizona for a while. We do have them in Arizona, but not that much. So Sheila's never had a tick on her, which is great, but we do have this just in case. It's a safe, easy, quick way to remove a tick if necessary. Also with ticks, if you want to be really thorough, if you do remove a tick from your dog, try to keep it, this is gross, but try to keep it in a container with like some rubbing alcohol to kind of preserve it. That way if your dog does get sick, you can present that to the vet and they can test it for, I don't know, Lyme disease or whatever it is that can happen. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how accurate that is. It's been recommended to me before, so I just keep that in mind. Thought I'd share it. You may know more than me, but better safe than sorry, I guess. The next thing that I think you should always have with you is a muzzle. And not just a muzzle, it should be one that is fitted for your dog, so it's an appropriate size, and one that your dog is used to. I am a big believer that every dog, regardless of their personality, behavior, whatever, should be muzzle trained for lots of reasons. Sheila is muzzle trained because she is reactive. She doesn't bite. She never has. She's not a bite risk or anything like that. But I always would rather err on the side of caution than put her in a position where she might bite. Like going to a strange vet. If she is injured or hurt, we're out hiking somewhere and we have to take her to a vet that she's never been to before. She doesn't know these people. She's scared. She's in pain. That's when dogs tend to bite, especially dogs that have never bitten before. If they're going to, that's a good place for it to happen. You know, imagine that you're in a foreign country, you don't speak the language, and you get injured somehow, you're in pain, your guide, who also doesn't speak your language, takes you to a place that you don't know, is this a doctor, is it not, you don't know what's going on, and they're poking and prodding at you and doing all these things while you're scared and in pain. You might lash out at them. Humans lash out in a different way than dogs, but it's a similar situation. So muzzle training is always great. Again, find one that fits your type of dog and fits their bone structure, their face. They should be able to fully pant in their muzzle. You don't want to clamp their mouth shut. They need to be able to pant and breathe, especially in a stressful situation. They're going to be breathing heavily, and so you need to be able to have their mouth open fully inside their muzzle. The next one, I think should be obvious, but I do want to, stress it. Having a second leash and a second collar, and or harness for your dog when you're traveling. Things happen, you might lose one, it might break. We lost a leash paddleboarding. I had it sitting on the paddleboard, we were paddling around, and Sheila jumped off the board, and we kind of like rocked a little bit, and I didn't realize that her leash fell off the back of the board because I was stupid and didn't strap it down. Until we got back to shore. Luckily, I had a spare leash with me, so I was able to leash her and get her to the car. You gotta follow leash laws, so... with your extra collar, Sheila usually wears a collar with her tags and everything on it. She's microchipped, but she also wears her tags. And then we usually walk in a harness. But the collar is good for identification. Her harness has a tag tucked into the pocket with her identification. She also wears a collar, and then I have a second collar with identification on it in case that one breaks, gets lost, something like that. The last thing I want is for my dog to get lost and them not be able to return her to me. So I, again, err on the side of caution when it comes to my dog, and I do everything I can to make sure that she will be returned to me as quickly as possible if she were to get separated. Okay, and my last must-have thing is shoes. I know people often laugh at shoes, and they are kind of ridiculous, but they are important. So Sheila has mucklucks, which I do recommend very highly. They are expensive for dog shoes. I think I spent like $80-something on dog shoes. It does come with 4. I just have the 2 with me right now. But the top of them, I don't know if you can see, it's kind of bright. The top of them is like a nylon, and then this tip of it is like this is like a thin material. This is like a thick kind of nylon, and then the soles are suede. They're very dirty because she uses them. We got stretchy ankles, and then a Velcro strap that goes around and cinches to hold them closed and keep them on the paws. Why are shoes important? Okay, so lots of reasons. Your dog might injure their paw and they need to have coverage on one or multiple paws from like a sharp rock or something like that. Lots of things can happen. We're currently in the desert and there are a ton of choyas out here. There's a lot of cactus, but the choyas are the ones specifically that are a problem. If you're unfamiliar with choyas, like jumping choyas, they are these little balls that connect to each other. I don't know, like, I don't have a good word. But they easily fall off the cactus and they stick to literally everything. And by stick, I mean puncture and stay latched onto things. The spines are like barbed microscopically, so when they go in, they're very hard to remove. They're painful. If they get in your hands, feet, paws, legs, skin, whatever, they hurt going in and they hurt coming out. And Sheila steps on them sometimes. I step on them sometimes. They're all over the place. And so putting these on has been a huge, huge game changer for us. The suede is really resistant to the choya spines, and they generally don't go through this, which is great. Occasionally she will get one on top, but it's easy to pull off because it's usually just stuck in the fabric and not into her skin. So when we're out in the desert, she almost always wears these when we're walking around. If we're just kind of hanging around camp, I'll leave her barefoot. I'll leave her barefoot because there's usually not cactus in like a camping area where it's been kind of cleared. But if we're walking on trails, hiking around, the muttlucks go on. Also, Muttluck, super cute name. Okay, so those are my must-have things that I would be really unhappy to go without. I'm sure I could manage, but I would not love it. So now I have a couple of things that are a little bit extra and definitely not required, but they do make things easier and safer for us. And so I wanted to share those as well. The first one, we have not used these in a little bit, so they're very dusty. The first one is Sheila's Rec Specs. Like I said, we don't use them very often, so they are quite dusty. And this is similar to a muzzle where you would need to train your dog to wear them. Sheila doesn't love them, but she will wear them. I got these specifically for when we're in the forest. She loves to run and just like haul ass wherever we are. Running is one of her favorite things, and running through bushes can be dangerous. So this protects her eyes. They've got a couple different lenses. So we've got the clear one, which she normally wears, and then there's also this tinted one, like sunglasses, to protect her from the bright light. If we were in a place with snow, I will put the tinted ones on as like sunglasses so the snow glare doesn't hurt her eyes like it would hurt ours. But we use these a lot in the woods. We haven't been up in the woods in a little bit, so we have not used them. But like I said, it's an extra. It's definitely not a requirement, but I feel good protecting her eyes, especially because she's a little bit chaotic when she's running around in the forest. And not necessarily looking where she is going. She has definitely run into branches and like stabbed herself a little bit. Not to make a wound, but she did like whimper about it. So these are nice to have to protect her precious eyeballs. Okay, and this one is a big extra. It's a very expensive extra, but I do have a GPS tracking collar for her. There's a lot of cheaper versions, the Fi collar, the whistle, things like that, which are great if you live in a city area. They usually run off phone towers, so you need to have phone service to be able to track your dog. We are often in places that don't have phone service or don't have very good phone service, and if Sheila were to get lost or wander off or something, I want something more reliable than that to find her. I told you I have a lot of things in place to get her back to me as soon as possible, and this is one of them. So this is the Garmin Alpha 200i, and so we've got the little handheld. I've got a collar that I put on her. Unfortunately, it does look like a shock collar. It's got the big antenna coming off of it, and it's a big thing, but it's not. It is tracking only. Garmin does offer training collars that have a shock option. And then the one that we have that is only for tracking. So that's what I went with. We don't need a shock collar, but we do need to track her. This is great. I can track multiple dogs if I had them. I just have her, but I can keep an eye on her wherever she is on the screen. I can set up points. You know, if we're hiking, I can set up a trail so we can follow the points of our trail, all sorts of things. This also connects to my Garmin watch. So if I'm with two people or like me and somebody else, if Sheila got separated from us, I can give the handheld to one person and they can go this way and look for her. I can follow on my watch and we can kind of like find her in the middle, whatever we need. So this connects to my watch and to her and to my phone. So I have a lot of connectivity options, which is fantastic. Again, this is very pricey. I think I spent $800 on the handheld and the collar. They are sold separately, or you can get them together, and it was a big investment, but I love it. I love the security of knowing where she is at all times. Sometimes I'm working and she usually hangs out around camp, but occasionally she finds a smell and she disappears from my sight, and I can just look at this and see, oh, she's on the other side of that tree or wherever she is. So if you have the funds for it, I definitely recommend if you're spending a lot of time outside. This uses satellite, so I can track her anywhere and everywhere. I just have to make sure it's charged.